Then we talk about a team that is on the up and up, or at least they're projected to be, the Tennessee Titans. And today I want to answer the question, are they worth the hype? Do we believe that they can take that next step? Right now, their Vegas betting line is at 6.5 wins going into next year, and they've had a busy offseason. They've committed to Will Levis. They think that he could be their guy at least for next season. They have a top 7 pick, which they can use on Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu or trade down, whatever the case may be. For their actual team, they signed Calvin Ridley to a big contract. They still have DeAndre Hopkins. They still have Chigozie Okonkwo, who can take that next step. But on defense, Amir, this is where it gets interesting. They brought back Aziz Al-Shahir, one of the most underrated middle linebackers in the game. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed, and they signed Chidobe Awuzie. They've addressed every single need on this team. So now at 7, really, it's just offensive tackle. And again, like I mentioned, there's a lot of very talented offensive tackles in this class. So it's really pick your poison. But as far as their record next year, Amir, what is your outlook on this team going forward?
I've been talking about this for the past weeks, and I think this team is going to be a solid team. And, it sounded crazy when I first said it, but I mean, they got some pieces offensively. Once they get that tackle, addressed, they'll be straight. I mean, they got Tony Pollard, DeAndre
Yeah,
Hopkins,
I didn't
Calvin
mention
Ridley. Defensively, defensively, like I just mentioned, they go out and get Awuzie, who I think is underrated. They go ahead and pick up L'Jarius Sneed. And so I think,
Jeffrey Simmons is
the
still
biggest,
there. I didn't mention him.
yeah, exactly. I think the biggest, question and concern will have to be, how is Levis going to develop? I think last year, he didn't play enough for, teams to kind of have, that much film on him. Obviously, they have a decent amount, but, not that much. And so I think for him, he's gonna come back into this year and be able to win them at least 7 games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I've talked about it in my mock drafts. Amir, if Will Levis comes in the next year and he sucks, I think grabbing a guy like Joe Alt at 7 is perfect because then you can set up the next quarterback for, and having a franchise left tackle, whether if that's a Shador Sanders, whether if that's a Carson Beck, whoever that is going into 2026 or 2025. I think getting a guy like Joe Alt and you're still going to have this talented group around whoever that next quarterback is. The Titans are in an interesting position where they have a very solid unit top to bottom, but I want to go through their schedule, Amir, starting at their home games. I think they can beat the New England Patriots, right? I know Gerard Mayo, new coach, new identity. Maybe they get interesting, but I'm going to take the Titans in a game there. They face the Jets at home and the Packers. I'm going to have them losing both of those. The Vikings are interesting. I think they can pull off a win against the Vikings, right? So I think they're 2-2 at home so far. The Bengals, of course, I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I'm going to say no there. The Texans, I'm going to say no. I think the Texans probably sweep the Titans this season. But then the Colts and the Jags, I think they can split with both. 2-4 in their division. They're going to lose to the Bengals, Packers, and Jets at home. So that makes them 2-7, right? But I think they can beat the Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings, bringing them to 4-7. Amir, 4 wins. That's still very close to this line here. For their away games, they face the Bills and the Dolphins. What do you think they fare there? Do you think they can get a win in either of those games?
I think, on the road, man, this is tough. I don't see them, you know, beating either one of those teams on the road. I think if they were to beat a team, it would probably be Miami
Yeah,
if
no
they were
doubt.
to.
You know what? So we'll say, look, upsets happen in the NFL today. We'll say
Yeah,
they get
right.
for those wins. So we'll say they're 5-8. Then we talk about the Bears. I think they can beat the Bears, but again, the Bears are very interesting with Caleb
Hmm.
Williams, Keenan Allen. Again, we'll say Caleb Williams has a magical performance, and the Bears get over the top. Then they face the Lions. I don't think that's a win. So they're at 5-10 with 2 games to go. You have the Chargers and the Commanders. I think they can beat both of those teams, and I think that is where they get exactly to 7 wins, and that makes their outlook for their future very interesting, Amir. But any final thoughts about the Titans? Is again a solid team, but we don't really know how it's going to play
Yeah.
out here in 2024.
Will Levis showed enough this past year to kind of give them hope going into this year. I think going into this year, them seeing the state of Jacksonville kind of go downhill, them kind of having that confidence in their young quarterback, their young star. I think this team, with the momentum, with the hype they have around, Will Levis, I think they'll end up pushing that 7 game mark.